there was a director there in the theater program who was not the nicest. Not everybody will believe in you, not everybody will like you, and art is subjective, and that is just something that we have to get comfortable with. It was one of my first times dealing with rejection in that way, but it sure gave me some tough skin, and she can catch my movie on Sunday.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Hello. We are back for season 4 of the Pop Culture Planet podcast, where we cover the world of entertainment while shining a light on representation and inclusion. I'm your host, Kristen Maldonado, and this week we have a very special guest for our premiere, someone that I've been dying to talk to. It is Isabella Gomez. You might know her best from starring in One Day at a Time, but she's got a brand new movie out, Royal Rendezvous. We're talking about that. We're talking about the Latina Girls Club in Hollywood, and so much more. I hope you enjoy this conversation. I want to start with your new movie, Royal Rendezvous. It looked like such a blast on set. I mean, you're in Ireland, you're in a friggin' castle. Like, what was it like shooting this movie?
It was a freaking dream. I mean, starting from I grew up on rom-coms and had always been like, I want to be the girl. I want to be the girl. And so just getting to do a rom-com was a dream. But then you're in Ireland and filming in not one, but several castles, and they're gorgeous and have so much history, and the accents are beautiful and everybody's so good. So I had the time of my life. I really did.
It looked like so much fun. I was like, yes. I want to go.
You should.
And did you have any like favorite or even maybe more challenging moments on set?
This was my first time doing anything that required an intimacy coordinator, and I was a little nervous going into it. You know, I'm mostly doing sitcoms, and so never had I had to get into my underwear in front of a camera, and so I was nervous going into it. But we had the most incredible intimacy coordinator, and she held my hand through it and made it actually so much fun. It was one of my favorite days of filming. So thank God.
And I was going to say, you know, this is your first rom-com, a little risque maybe of a role. So what is it like for you to transition from, I think, you know, you've played kind of more teenager roles and now you're kind of coming into those adult roles. What does that transition feel like?
It feels really great. I have a baby face. So like I just turned 25. So I've been, you get it. You get it. And so people usually, I play really young. I've always played young. And so I've been very lucky that I've had time to really come into my own as an adult before I had to play one on TV. And so I feel ready and I feel excited, and I'm excited that the industry is starting to see me in that light. Cause, you know, I mean, I'm sure I'll play 15 for a while longer. I'll be CW 15 forever, but it's nice to get to do some other stuff.
Honestly, I feel like it's a Latino thing. I think we just got those young genes.
A Latina patina, you know.
So spinning off of that, what is your relationship with your Latino heritage like?
It's my favorite thing about me, I think. I love it. I grew up in Colombia, born and raised. I was there till I was 10, and I feel so connected to my roots. My parents and I speak Spanish, mostly my dad. My dad won't answer me if I speak in English, which when I was 10, I thought it was the most annoying thing in the world. And now I'm like, oh, thank God. Like I'm fully bilingual thanks to him. But in my household, there's always reggaeton going on. There's always salsa and all that kind of stuff. We love the food. I think Latinos are rad, and I feel very lucky to be Colombian.
Oh, I feel that. Absolutely. I feel like there's something like Suavemente comes on and like everybody turns and you're like,
it doesn't matter how many times you've heard it either. You're like,
no, it's true. It's true. It's very real. And, you know, spinning off of that, have you always dreamed of, you know, getting into acting and performing? Was that something that was, you know, always on your radar?
It's so interesting. So my dad's a lawyer and my mom's a veterinarian. And so there wasn't really artistic people in my family. And I was an only child. I was the first grandchild, and I was just very rambunctious. And when I was 6, one of my mom's best friends who was in the industry in Colombia said, hey, we're doing a commercial. We can't find the girl. Would you just bring Isa in? And it was love at first sight. And ever since, it's all I've ever wanted to do. And when we moved to the States at 10, we moved 2 blocks down from an acting studio, and I would beg my parents to take me. And my mom was like, I don't know English well enough yet. Like, let me get a little more comfortable before I take you. And eventually they took me and I took every course. So it's been, I always say, like, it's so cliche, but I am one of those people that it's like, this is what I'm meant to do. And it is my one true love. Like, I am the best version of myself on a set.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And, I want to bring up like something that you had tweeted about a couple of years ago that really resonated with me, and that I feel like I've experienced as well. Was just it was a tweet that you were replying to Jessica Marie Garcia
Mm.
about just people not believing in you, or like kind of underestimating you. You had talked about a director that she also worked with was just like, you're not good enough, you're not gonna make it, and like not listening to those people. And so I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that experience and kind of how you kind of like overcame that.
Yeah. So the who Jessica Marie Garcia, who I love, and I were talking about, we went to the same high school, not at the same time, but
Oh, wow.
years apart, and then became friends out here and found out about it. And there was a director there in the theater program who was not the nicest. And a lot of people in this industry, a lot of teachers have this weird philosophy where they think you need to break actors down to then rebuild them the way that they want them to be built. And I don't know that I agree with that at all. Thankfully, by the time that I was there, I had already been acting for quite a long time, and I was having some success in it. And so it didn't trip me out a lot. It just made me realize that not everyone will support you. I was very lucky that my family was very on board from the beginning, and they were like, we will follow you to the ends of the world. Like, that's the reason we moved to LA. Like, I was very lucky. And so I had a really good foundation of people who believed in me. But it's not everybody will believe in you, not everybody will like you, and art is subjective. And that is just something that we have to get comfortable with. It was one of my first times dealing with rejection in that way. I think a teacher, especially a teacher dealing with children, should not do that.
Mhm.
But it sure gave me some tough skin, and she can catch my movie on Sunday.
Oh, I love it, I love it. No, like, it's so real. Like, I mean, I've had people tell me I don't have the look to be on camera to even speak with you, and it's like,
Shut up.
no, then
They're
I'll do
wrong.
it myself. We'll do our own things and
Yes,
prove them wrong. So
and you're doing it.
we're doing it, girl. I want to go back a little bit to, you were born in Colombia, and so I'm sure like the experience of seeing yourself on screen, or being represented maybe is a little bit different for you because you grew up there. But so I'm curious, I guess, what you think of the current state of representation, and maybe when you first felt you saw yourself on screen.
I've had a really, really interesting journey with that because I'm super white passing. I've talked about this a lot. So when I grew up in Colombia, everything was dubbed into Spanish and people looked like me. Like, I'm very light. And so I didn't really understand why representation mattered until I saw Jane the Virgin.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh my god, like, these people sound and behave and have quirks like my people." And it wasn't until then that I really started getting it. And then really it was one day at a time. Like, I was very, very lucky to have made the first season in a bubble because I was so ignorant to not only what the Latinx representation would mean, but the LGBTQ representation. And it changed my world. It made me into a better person. I my empathy levels have gone up so much because of Elena, and my understanding of what people go through and my understanding of my own privilege. And so it's been a journey, and now it continues to be. Before I was on One Day at a Time, people kind of assumed that I was white, and so my auditions looked very different. And now that I am very outspokenly Latina, and especially during the run of One Day at a Time, I was very politically active and very involved in that world. And so auditions look different, and people treat me different, and it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but I do see our industry taking steps forward. And more than anything, I see the Latinx community learning that the first thing we have to do is support each other. I think everything starts within, and we talk a lot about the Black community and the way that they have catapulted themselves into stardom because they support each other and ride hard for each other no matter what. And it is so beautiful to see, and Latinos have a little bit of a harder time supporting each other, and I think it doesn't help. But I do think we're moving forward, and that's nice. I think we have a long way to go.
Yeah, it's just like left and right. Every show that you love gets canceled, and it's like you
Mhm.
see the great representation, and then it's like taken back, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's very disheartening. And there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we're not really like allowed to talk about much, that is unbelievable that it still happens. But what's cool is the newest generation is stepping up, and there's like a whole generation of like old jaded white men that have the power that are getting older and are stepping down, and I have so much hope for the next generation and what they're going to do.
You have played, like you said, these very unapologetically Latino roles. Is that something that you like think about, or you make a conscious effort when you're picking something to take on?
Absolutely. I I don't know. My team is very nice to me. Of course, we love each other. I have the greatest team. But I'm a little, I have my boundaries around what kind of Latinx characters I'm willing to play. And
Mhm,
obviously, I always say like I'm very fortunate right now to be able to make that choice, but we
mhm.
can't hold everybody accountable in that way, in the sense of acting is a job, and the middle class actor is a dying breed. Like, it is really hard to support yourself from this business. And so if Latinos have to take roles where they're drug addicts or bad people or abusive or whatever, like sometimes we have to, because
Mhm.
that's what's being written for us. But I have been so lucky to have the choice sometimes, and get to pick and choose. And so if I'm going to play a Latinx role, I want her to be nuanced and layered, and I want her to have something to say. And if she is in one of those situations that's a little bit more stereotypical, then what's different about that story? Why are we making it? Why is this what we're making? And what do we have to say, and how are we going to create a story that paints us in a light where we're humanized? And so I think about it obsessively, and I I do go back to producers and directors a lot and be like, I won't be saying that on camera. So let's talk about how we can change it. And I'm very lucky to have been around creatives that were very receptive to that.
And speaking of some great creatives, I know obviously you've worked with Gloria Calderon-Kellett in One Day at a Time, and I know that you have a role in With Love, which I'm very excited about as well. Is there anything you can like tease about it? And also, what was it like just like coming back on a different project with her?
First of all, Gloria's the best, and I love her. And it was Gloria and Justina Machado and Rita Moreno that really taught me how to hold my own, and how to handle myself on a set in a way where I am respectful and all of that, but still am very much like, here's where I'm at and here's what I need, which is
Mhm.
awesome. But with Glow, working with her again is a dream. I mean, she is truly my family. We text all the time. I see her as much as I can, and I hadn't worked in a really long time. I 9 months, and I understand that that's not a long time for a lot of people. And I understand that I'm very, very lucky, but I had been a series regular for since I was 18 all the way till then, and then crickets for almost a year. And it kind of shook me up, and rocked my world, and made me do there was a lot of therapy and a lot of
Yeah.
figuring out who I am. So then being able to come back to set after all of that internal work, to Gloria and to the kind of sets that she creates, because she creates families. And so being embraced immediately, and being with all these Latinos that were like happy to be there and excited to do this job, and so willing and able to open their arms to me, was exactly the kind of gentleness I needed. And I think it really set me up to then be able to do Royal Rendezvous, and then my recur on the Goldbergs. And I'm always so grateful for her, and never not texting her to please make another sitcom and put me in it.
I love that. And speaking of family, I feel like there is like this kind of like Latina Girls Club in Hollywood that I like hear about. I want to join it. I like see the I see the community. And like, I just wanted to, hear a little bit about just like what it's like being a part of this group of women that are kind of like all trying to uplift each other and like support each other.
It's super rad. I mean, I kind of got introduced into it at 18, which was the time when like I really needed role models and I really needed to understand what I needed to do in the industry as a Latina and as an immigrant, and what that meant for me in my career. And so having these women who have like, the only reason I'm here is because of them, and for them to be willing and able to come to me and allow me to be a part of their world is everything. And it just evolved. I mean, the pandemic happened, and so we stopped doing the lunches and we stopped doing all of that, but we still very much, there's group chats, and anytime we see each other out, it is the best. And there's such an unspoken connection. For example, Sasha Calle, who is another Colombian in the industry, I met years ago before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit and she was filming Supergirl and whatever. And then I ran into her a week and a half ago or so at a friend's house. And we immediately just melted into a puddle on the ground of love and being like, oh my God, because only other Latinas understand what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's exactly what we need to do. And we need to be better about involving more Latinas in the industry, and getting more people in, and making sure we're reaching down and bringing everybody up with us. So that's the goal.
I love that. And I'm holding you to that. When I'm in LA, I'm gonna be like, girl, I'm ready to join the Latina luncheon. Let's go.
Please let me know if there's another one. I have a +1. Let's go.
Let's go. Everything you're doing is incredible. I don't know if there's anything else that you just want to share about what you're working on, about Royal Rendezvous, but you're amazing.
Thank you. Royal Rendezvous will be out on E! on Sunday the 26th. And then I also am still finishing out my recur on The Goldbergs as Carmen, which has been a joy and such a delight. And then you can also find me on Spotify. Fanny Lu and I play mother and daughter, and it is a bilingual like novela sort of thing. And it's called La Cabina Telefónica. There's 50 episodes. I believe they're all out now. So that's where you can find me right now.
You're booked and busy. I love it.
Thank God.
Congratulations, and thank you so much for your time. This is awesome. I've wanted to talk to you for so long. Like you're great. So thank you.
You're so great. Thank you for really good questions.
Thank you. Big thank you to Isabella Gomez for joining us for our season 4 premiere. You can watch the video podcast at youtube.com/Kaymaldo. That's KAYMALDO. Listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast listening platforms, and get more insight at our outlet, popcultureplanet.net. You can keep up with the podcast by following me pretty much everywhere at Kaymaldo, or the show at Pop Cult Planet. You can also support the podcast with your very own Pop Culture Planet merch at teespring.com/stores/Kaymaldo. If you enjoyed the episodes, consider subscribing so you know when a new one is posted, rate and review this podcast, and share it with your fellow pop culture lovers. Thanks for listening. It's been a blast, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and if you want to talk more TV and movies with me outside of the comments section, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Kaymaldo. If you like this one, you can check out more of my videos right over here. See ya!